Hey guys, welcome to another edition of TekDep Teardown. In today's episode, we will be showing you the internal layout and disassembly of the 13.6-inch MacBook Air model A2681 in Starlight. If you see any parts or tools you need in the video, stop by our website tekdep.com and get what you need. Let's get into it. The 13.6-inch MacBook Air 2022 uses the all-new M2 processor. Throughout the teardown of this unit, you will notice the differences in mechanisms compared to the previous models, but we'll get into those later on. As always, start by turning off the devices you are working on to protect not only yourself, but the device as well. Starting with the bottom case, we already see the new design changes compared to the older models. Let's unfasten the 4 pentalobe screws along the edges of the unit, and then using a suction cup, break free the magnets that are holding the bottom case to the unit. Note at the top of the unit there are 4 prongs holding the bottom case to the unit. To release these, slide the bottom case towards the trackpad and then pull it out. Now that we are inside the unit, we will start by removing the battery connector from the logic board. Unfasten the 2 T3 screws holding the bracket over the battery connector. Then use a pry to remove the retention bracket and disconnect the battery flex cable. Repeat this same process on the trackpad cable on the left side of the logic board. Remember to break the trackpad flex cable free from the glue holding it to the top case in this step. This is to avoid damaging the cable or a headache later on in the teardown. Now let's remove the 4 screws at the top of the unit that are holding in the Wi-Fi and speaker assemblies. These are T5 screws that double as anchor points for the prongs that help hold the bottom case to the unit. To prepare the logic board for removal, we will unfasten these screws. Note that they are a mix of T5 and T3 screws, so make sure you use the right head as to not strip them. We also recommend using a magnet to grab the screws as they tend to get stuck in place. Just make sure they are actually free before coming back through with the magnet. To remove the hinge covers, unfasten these 2 T5 screws on both sets of hinges. Then use a pry to remove the hinge covers. The best way to free them is to pull and push at the same time downward. This is needed as the covers sit under the case. For now though, we will leave them in. Moving on to the I/O. Unfasten the T5 screws holding in the ports you wish to remove. Note that the MagSafe 3 charging port has 2 additional T5 screws at the base of the port that will also need to be removed in order to free it. Let's go ahead and remove the Wi-Fi antennas, speakers, USB Type-C ports, and daughter board connections from the logic board by unfastening the associated T3 screws and brackets holding them in. After doing so, you can remove the USB Type-C ports from the unit. After removing the USB Type-C ports, another T5 screw holding in the logic board is revealed and must be removed. Now we dislodge the hinge covers from the top case and unfasten the 6 T8 screws from both sets of hinges that hold the LCD assembly to the top case. Don't forget the 2 T5 screws holding in the Wi-Fi speaker assembly on both sides. These screws were hidden by the hinge covers until now. We can now lift the right Wi-Fi speaker assembly out of the unit. The left one is still held in by the LCD securing bracket. In order to remove the LCD from the unit, unfasten these 2 T3 screws and 2 P2 screws below them. Then peel back the black tape strip and unfasten the T3 screw that was hidden below. After dislodging the bracket, the left speaker Wi-Fi assembly can now be removed. You can now disconnect the 3 LCD connections at the top of the unit. Coming back to the logic board, we need to remove the 2 hideaway panels that reveal even more connections to the main board. Start with the T3 screws, then fish the panel out with a pry. And finally, disconnect the aux port board and the LCD proximity sensor at the top left-hand side of the logic board, and the daughter board in the middle left-hand side of the logic board. Be very careful as you remove the LCD proximity sensor from the unit. It's glued down to the aux port board and is very thin and fragile. The aux port will simply lift out after the LCD sensor is free from it. The logic board is now completely free and ready for removal. Try to use an anti-static bag or find a cardboard box to place it on, as it is very sensitive and we do not want to damage it. To prep the daughter board for removal, we must disconnect the keyboard, the battery daughter cable, and unfasten a T3 screw and bracket holding in the Touch ID flex cable. The Touch ID sensor flex cable is glued to the top case, so we will go ahead and free it for removal in the future. Finally, use a T5 screwdriver to unfasten the daughter board. It is not completely free as it is glued to the top case, so we'll use a pry along the edges to free it, and then remove it. Onto the Touch ID. Unfasten the 6 T5 screws holding the bracket and sensor in. Remove the bracket, then use a T3 screwdriver to remove the last screw holding the Touch ID sensor in. We will remove the Touch ID later on. The last remaining item is the trackpad. There are 10 T5 screws holding the trackpad to the top case that require removal in this step. We almost forgot to remove the MagSafe 3 connector here. This port could have been removed along with all of the other I/O, such as when the Type-C ports were removed, but we missed it. And now we're going to remove those final items from the unit. Start with the trackpad. Open the unit about a quarter of the way and then feed the trackpad cable through the hole it's running through. Then lift the trackpad off the LCD. Do not slide the trackpad as you risk scratching the LCD. To remove the Touch ID from the keyboard, open the unit about halfway and then gently fish it out of its home. Do not pull the Touch ID, it should slide freely with no force. If you need to use force, the cable is not free from the top case and or a screw is still in place. To separate the top case from the LCD assembly, open the unit about halfway or just over halfway and rotate the bottom of the top case where the hinges are upwards. It will simply lift up and away from the LCD. And finally, disconnect the trackpad flex cable from the trackpad by lifting up on the retention bar and then pulling downwards on the cable towards yourself. Note that there is a small amount of glue holding the flex cable in place, so this may require a small amount of force. And that's it. Thank you for watching another TekDep teardown video. We hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Leave any comments, questions, and feedback in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video.